What we're looking at in this video is something called while loops. And before we get to looking at while loops, I just want to deal with a word that sounds difficult, and that is the word iteration. And it's not a difficult word at all. All it means is to repeat a process, so repeating a set of instructions to reach a goal or some result. And that's all it means. And so let's say that we have some code and it starts here and it ends here, and we're going to repeat it. So we're going to get to the end and then we're going to go back to where the start is. So this would be called our first iteration. So the first time we do that is the first iteration. Second iteration, third iteration are the second and third times we repeat whatever loop we're in. And so that's all iteration means, nothing too clever there. And what we're going to now look at is this thing called a while loop. And syntax for this, so the way that we create these things, is we say in C-style languages, so JavaScript, Java, that kind of language, we say while, open a bracket and close a bracket, and something is going to go into here, and into there goes an expression which will evaluate to be true or false. So like the if statements, we put an expression in, we do the same with a while statement. And then just like an if, we have an opening brace which opens this statement, this block of code, and then we put in code to repeat here. So whatever lines of code we want to repeat, we put in there, and then we close it with a closing curly brace. So really simple syntax there. And just let's have a look at an example, because it's a bit confusing if we just look at the syntax. So an example of this working, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have something where I've got a variable, and so I'm just going to call that variable A, and I'm going to assign it the value of 0. And what I want to happen is I want this A to count up and put on the screen the number which is stored in A, and I want it to do it 4 times. So I want it to go from 0 to 4, so it'll actually be 5 times. So I'm looking at a while loop. So while, open my bracket, and I'm going to say while A, I want it to go from 0 to 4, so while A is less than 5. So it's got to be less than 5. And so here's my Boolean expression which will evaluate to true or false. At the moment this is true. While it's true, it will repeat this loop. Open my curly brace to begin this structure. And then in my block of code, I'm going to say document write and then the value of A. So that's going to put A onto my screen or into my web page. And then I'm going to say to it A++, so increment A. A is A plus 1. So what's going to happen, and let's just finish the closing brace there. So what's going to happen, it's going to come in here, it's going to say, is A less than 5? Well, it is, so that's true, so I may as well run this. So then it'll put 0 on the screen, and then it will say A++, so now A is 1. Is 1 less than 5? Well, it is, it's true, so I'm going to put 1 on the screen. Now A++, 1 plus 1 is 2, so is 2 less than 5? Yes, it is, so I'll put 2 on the screen. Add 1, is 3 less than 5? Put 3 on the screen. Add 1, is 4 less than 5? Yes, it is, put 4 on the screen. And then at this point, it adds 1 and comes up with 5. Is 5 less than 5? No, it's not less than 5. So at this point, once this is evaluated, it will instantly go from here and it will go to this end brace here and then carry on with the code underneath. So that's how your while loop works. Let's have a look at one of them working when we have our browser. So here we go. Let's do our code inside here. And what I want this program to do is I want it to keep on asking the user to type in a number. And if they guess the computer's number correctly, then it will say that they've got it right, well done. If their number which they guess is lower than the computer's number, it will say that the computer's number is higher, or it will say their guess is too low. And if they guess a number which is too high, then it will say the number you guessed was too high. So pretty simple game really. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say that I've got a variable which is called game over, and initially that's going to be false, so my game is playing, so I'm going to have game over being false. And I'm going to have a variable which I'm going to call magic number, and that will take a value, could be anything, but I'm going to put 63 in. You could obviously change that number. And I'm going to say while we're not game over, so remember this has to evaluate to true, so at the beginning it's false. If I say not false, that will evaluate to true. So while it's not the game over, I want to do something, and I'll close that. So that's my while loop set up. Now if I leave this now and start running it, then what will happen is it will keep on going, because I never switch this game over to be true, and so it's always false. This always evaluates to false. So this means that this while loop will go again and again and again and again forever, and so we call it an infinite loop. That's what infinite loop means. And with while loops you want to be really, really careful that you don't get something repeating forever. Now what I'm going to do to avoid that, so I want to get the input from the user. So I'm going to say that I want a new variable called guess, and I'm going to prompt the user to guess my number, so guess the computer's number. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use if statements. I could use case and switch statements, but I'm going to use if statements here. So if the guess, just because I think it's a bit clearer, if the guess is less than the magic number, so they haven't got it right, they've got it less, then I'm going to put document write, and I'm going to write there your guess is too low. And then I'm going to do another if beneath, and I'm going to say if your guess is greater than the magic number, that's the computer's number, then document write your guess is too high. And then I'm going to do a third if, and I'm going to look to see if the guess is the same as the, I've just noticed a spelling mistake there, so let's just correct that. So magic number is magic number, and I've done it again. So if your guess is the same as the magic number, then we'll put that's right, magic number is, and then I'm just going to use that variable again, and I'm going to concatenate the variable onto the string there. And the other thing I want to do, if they get the correct number, remember I must remember somehow to make this so that I can escape out of this loop. So what I'm going to do here is, if they get the correct number, I'm going to switch game over to be true this time. So game over is now true. And if they get the right magic number, that's what will end this repetition or this iterative, this iteration process going on with the while loop. So let's try and run this. So it prompts me, guess my number. So let's say that I guess first of all 60. And it says your guess is too low, and we can see the output up here, and it's going to put all the outputs together. And guess my number again, so I type in 65, and it says my guess is too high. So what about 64? My guess is too high. What about 62? My guess is too low. Okay, I'll try 63, and that's right, the magic number is 63, and it stops prompting me, and we're now out of that loop, and my program has finished. So there we are, while loops. All you have to think is with a while loop, you want something here that evaluates to true, and then you run some code, and that will keep on going until this evaluates to be false.